Can a building bring our country together? Coming up on Architecture Codex.
Architecture Codex. If you want to see more, like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe.
Memorials and buildings dedicated to painful events are the most difficult to design, as everyone is ready to interpret or misinterpret significant elements. The National Museum of African American History and Culture is such a building taking on such a burden. It opened in 2016, and the most striking feature is the bronze grille exterior on 3 levels. It distinguishes the building from what might be considered a conventional, albeit well-executed, modernist glass museum inside of it. Let's first talk about the museum inside. The permanent displays depicting the history of Americans who trace their history to Africa are deep underground and dramatically present facts, artifacts, story, and emotion as you ascend the levels to reach daylight once again. I won't get into some of the political patchwork that is done, but the narrative is expansive, and in my opinion, this is the core of the museum, and it is worth multiple visits. There are many ancillary spaces spread across the other levels in this 420,000 square foot building, including changing displays, symposium spaces, contemplative spaces, performance spaces, and other functions you would expect from a first-class museum, such as a bookstore gift shop, and what might be the best museum food court I have ever experienced. The Sweet Home Cafe is also worth multiple visits. So let's go back to the most unusual feature about this building: the outer, bronze-colored aluminum grilles on 3 levels that spread out as they ascend. They establish the visual volume of the building and complement nicely the other Smithsonian buildings on the National Mall, where the museum occupies the edge nearest the White House and the Washington Monument. The natural question is, why is it like that? Many articles endeavor to give it a significant explanation and say almost identical things, as if they shared the same cheat sheet. I have read that the bronze-coated aluminum facade grilles are a homage to the enslaved ironworkers of southern cities. The shape represents the crown of an African Yoruba sculpture by Olowe of Ise. The slope matches the 17-degree angle of the Washington Monument capstone. The cladding invites daylight to the interior, and the upward sawtooth expresses faith, hope, and resiliency. Of course, it's possible that they are all true. Architect David Adjaye stated, quote, "We took an original ornamental ironwork and used an algorithm to track the organizing principles of the pattern, and we really remade that in the 21st century to be the ornamental framework of the building. It's not just an ornament. It deals with protecting the building by creating a solar shade that protects it from the sun and is highly sustainable. Architects can make anything sound noble." Grills providing shade like this, particularly wood grills, have been a common feature on North African and Asia Minor buildings for thousands of years, and they did it without a complex computer algorithm. But trying to get an architect to use words to describe what we do best by drawing pictures is always chancy. We saw a similar attempt at the Institut du Monde Arabe in Paris, designed by Jean Nouvel and Henri Jean, where the grills were shifting mechanized patterns in stainless steel, a metallic grise soleil. French can make anything sound sexy. Sir David Frank Adjaye is an award-winning Ghanaian-British architect. After a few residential projects, his career took off quickly onto many larger commissions, such as the Nobel Peace Center in Oslo, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Denver, and the Bellevue William O. Lockridge Library. President George Bush, 43, cut through the red tape unraveling for decades to commission the Museum Committee in 2001, and approved a final site selection on the National Mall in 2005, following a design competition against firms such as Hay Cobb Freed, Foster and Partners, Musuem, and Diller Scofidio. The commission for the National African American Museum was awarded to the team of Adjaye Associates, the Freelon Group, Davis Brody Bond, and finally Smith Group, who also did the Museum of the Bible, Architecture Codex video number 98. It appears the exhibitions were designed by Ralph Applebaum Associates and the Underground by Davis Brody Bond. The late MIT professor and architect of record for the museum, Philip Freelon, was Adjaye's main collaborator. Freelon's firm produced the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in Atlanta and the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, among others. The groundbreaking was in 2012. During construction, the Smithsonian and the construction managers more or less required and requested design changes to meet timeframes and budgets. There was supposed to be an elaborate wetland landscape around the building. Much of the building was built fast-tracked, designs for the next phase of construction arriving just as that phase was about to start. The building opened in time for President Barack Obama to preside at its dedication in September of 2016. In looking back at one of the inspirations for the form, the sculptures of Adjaye of Adjaye, whose work dates from the early 20th century, one can see that many of the figures with the distinctive crown were caryotids, human figures that replaced structural columns seen as far back as ancient Greece. Such figures bear immense loads, but often do so with placid, calm expressions. This is a very fitting image for the National Museum of African American History and Culture as it attempts to carry the burden of history with a soothing calmness. It may be impossible for any building to meet that mission of remembering and healing injustices, but this building evokes that kind of mood. I'm Michael Molinelli, and this is Architecture Codex.